guys, welcome back to my channel. I'm back with another video, and for this video I'll be making my Halloween costume. I'm well aware that we don't celebrate Halloween in South Africa, but I really wanted to join this year's Halloween. And before I start with this video, please like it and subscribe to my channel. This year I'll be recreating one of Beyoncé's looks. I'm such a huge fan of hers and I just love her style in general. So these are some of the outfits I love that she's worn and that I want to recreate, and my goal is to make something I can still wear even after Halloween. I'll be recreating outfit 6 because I can still wear the outfits separately and still style them with other outfits in my closet. The outfit consists of a jacket and skinny jeans, and the jacket has a lapel collar, 2 barrier pockets, 2 angle pocket flaps, 4-piece sleeve, 4 belt loops in front, 3 belt loops at the back, and also 2 sleeve vents. So now I'm going to make the jacket. I'll start by taking my back jacket block and trace it out on paper, and then I added all the necessary panels that the jacket has. After adding the panels, I added all the grain lines and notches in red. And then after adding all those details, I started labeling all the pattern pieces so that I don't get confused and mixing them up. After creating the back part of the jacket, I then took my front jacket block and also traced it out on paper. After tracing out the front jacket block, I repeated the same steps I did for the back part of the jacket. Now it's time to trace out the individual pattern pieces on paper, and I started with the back pattern like this. Then I traced out the front pattern. And after tracing it, I added the seam allowance on all the pattern pieces, then I added all the grain lines and notches. After adding the grain lines, I started labeling all the pieces in pen. Then I cut out all the pattern pieces. This is how the front jacket pattern pieces look, and this is how the back jacket pieces look. I then took the front pattern plan and used that to draft the barrier pockets. And these are the final barrier pocket patterns. Now it's time to draft the sleeve pattern, which will be repeating all the steps I've been doing on all the other patterns. The pants are skinny jeans that have a fly front zip and 2 barrier pockets. They also have 7 belt loops in total and 2 angle pockets at the back. Now it's time to make the pattern for the pants. I'm going to start by drafting the front pattern. So after drafting the front pattern, I started drafting the back pattern. After creating all the patterns, I now have estimated how much material I need to purchase for this project. This is the only green denim fabric I found, which is lighter than the one Beyoncé was wearing, but I'll work with it. Then now it's time to get the zip, which is this one that matches the fabric and this one that is a darker green. And then I looked for the buttons and I was overwhelmed by all of them, and I honestly couldn't decide which one I wanted to get, but I ended up getting both of these, and the silver one matches the original design. I got both just in case I wanted to change my mind later on. So these were all the lining options that were there, but I chose this dark green one. I also noticed that the original jacket didn't have lining, but I want mine to have it simply because I just think it looks nicer and neater that way. Then the next thing to do is to start washing the material. This is to pre-shrink the fabric while also getting rid of all the factory dirt. I prefer hand washing it since the dye comes out a lot than to put it in the washing machine. And then after washing it, I can now let it dry outside. After it's done drying, I started ironing it. Now it's time to pin the back jacket patterns on the fabric. And then after pinning it, I started cutting it, and I realized that my seam allowance was too small for the felt seam, so instead I started adding the extra seam allowance while cutting the fabric. These are all the pieces for the back. Now I'm going to pin the bottom pieces wrong sides together because the jacket has felt seams, and then stitch them in place. After that, I repeated the process with the rest of the pieces. After stitching them, I ironed the seams open like this, and then I started trimming one of the seams in half to create the felt seam. If you would like me to create a proper tutorial on seams, please let me know by leaving a comment. After trimming the seam allowance, I then folded the bigger seam allowance towards the smaller one that I trimmed and then pinned it in place. After securing it by pinning it in place, I started ironing it. So after stitching the seams and also ironing them, I realized that the stitches were not visible enough, so I went and bought thread that is thicker and used for denim top stitching. And here's a side-by-side comparison of the old stitch and the new one. This side is the normal thin cotton thread I used, and this side is the thicker thread I used. And then I started to unpick all the old seams and did them all over again by using the new thread. Now the felt seams look like this. I then started joining the rest of the seams, and I also had to stitch them with one hand because my other hand was pulling the thread on top, which was very challenging and hard to do. But in the end, the seams still looked fine. Then I connected the top part of the jacket and also connected the waistband to the bottom part of the jacket. So now after connecting all the parts, I ironed the seams open and repeated the felt seam process again. And after creating the felt seams, I moved on to the front part of the jacket, which is to pin the patterns and cut them out. Then after cutting out all the pieces, I repeated the felt seam process again. So now that the seams are all done, I started making the angled pocket flaps. After stitching and trimming them, I checked if they were the same, and then I added them to the top part of the jacket. So after creating the angled pocket flaps, I started creating the barrier pockets for the jacket. With the barrier pockets, I first had to fuse all the parts that needed fusing, then I carried on with making the pockets. So after making both the barrier pockets for the jacket, I moved on to making the collar. After stitching the collar and also connecting the seams, I can start to add the lining to the jacket. So I've already made the lining off camera, but I couldn't film everything because I was running out of time. So now it's time to do the not so fun part, which is creating the sleeve vent. I was really dreading this process simply because when it comes to sleeve vents, you need to make sure that they look the same on both sides. After creating the sleeve vents on the jacket, I had to cut out the lining sleeves so I can connect them to the jacket vent. I first have to pin and cut the pattern on the fabric for the pants, both front and back. And then also cut the two back angled pockets. And then before I start doing the barrier pockets on the pants, I first have to do the two front darts and also the two back darts. After sewing the darts, I can start adding the barrier pockets on the front. This is how the barrier pockets look. So after completing the 2 barrier pockets in front, I can start adding the fly front zip. After adding the fly front zip, I can start adding the 2 back angled pockets. Before I top stitch and add them to the back pants, I first have to check that they are the same or symmetrical. And then after attaching the 2 back angled pockets, I can start by attaching the 2 back seams. So now the front part of the pants look like this with the attached fly front zip, and then the back part of the pants look like this. And then finally it's time to stitch the side seams. So I've already fit the jacket and made those alterations, and then I've also fit the pants, and then it's time to make those alterations too. And then now it's time to create the belt loops for both the pants and the jacket. So here's the final reveal of my Halloween costume. I really enjoyed making this 2-piece look, and what I love about it is the fact that I can still wear it after Halloween. I've also already posted these pictures on Instagram. If you don't follow me on Instagram, please follow me there and like those pictures at Khaya Zikalala. So please leave a comment on what you think about the final outfit, and don't forget to like this video and subscribe to my channel.